Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 Quick Match gameplay. This time around we are on the Tarantula Coast playing as the force of the Beastmen against the Skaven. And much like a lot of the other matchups for Skaven, this match has definitely changed a good bit. Before, one of the big problems for Skaven is that you just get mobbed. The Beastmen could rush you, they'd bring a bunch of cheap cav, they'd bring a bunch of low to mid-tier infantry, a horde of chariots, and just run you over, and you'd be screwed. Skaven. But with the new additions of Jezzails, with the addition of Rattling Guns, with the addition of especially Doomflayers, which can really mulch that cheap chaff very, very quickly, I think this match has actually shifted quite a bit. And so I wanted to try out a build that I figured could be decent against kind of anything my opponent would bring. And my opponent actually went with a bit more of an old-school build here, so it's definitely going to be an interesting matchup. But rather than going super wide and trying to outmaneuver my opponent a whole bunch with my infantry line, just having a huge infantry line, or doing a vanguard rush or something, we're actually just doing a Minobus. So we got, for our Lord, we're rolling with Morgur. He's obviously the safety pick, especially with the Jezzails, which are ridiculously accurate. And I wasn't 100% sure how this map was laid out, so I didn't want to get Morgur, lose my Lord right away, because that's game over as Beastmen. So we've got good old regeneration, we've got 2 summons of Chaos Spawn, Call to Violence, and Foe Seeker. So definitely a good lineup of abilities there, and with his high missile resist, we're basically going to be unsnipeable to Jezzails. Now, besides that, front line is simply 3 units of Gorehorde. Not much to be said for these guys. We've got Blackhorns, Ravagers, and 2 Shielded Gores. They're just there to screen for the Minotaurs, and the idea is that I'm just going to ram right down my opponent's throat. If he went wide, if he brought a whole bunch of chaff, we're going to run it over super quickly and just crush it. If he's got some heavily armored troops, we're going to run him over with the Minotaurs. If he's got Doomflayers, then the Minotaurs will be able to stop them with their high mass. And my opponent won't be able to sort of pick off ideal targets because nothing in this army list except maybe these flung out Ungors is really an easy target for Doomflayers. Now, an ace in the hole for this strat, because it is such a bunker buster rushing a narrow corridor strat, are these 2 Bray Shamans. Now, one of them is a Bray Shaman of Death. They're both mounted on chariots to get more mobility and damage output. Due to how accurate Jezzails are, I don't think it's even worth trying to run on foot because you're not going to be able to dodge anyway. And we've got Doom and Darkness. So this is kind of our ace in the hole. If we overcast Doom and Darkness, you get a 40-meter AoE, and it's minus 16 leadership, which on the poor rats is potentially devastating. And my hope was that we're going to rush an area, the Butchers will be in there, Morgur is going to be in there, all these units, they're going to fear, terror, and immediately rout my opponent's troops. Alongside that, Bray Shaman of Shadows bring a little bit of utility to the field. Obviously, we've got Spirit Leech on the Lord of Death. With the Shaman of Shadows, we do have Melkos Miasma as well as Enfeebling Foe, and then 2 Jagged Daggers, of course, to get more Winds of Magic. Finally, some Ungor Spears, simply providing additional width and ability to harass the backline if my opponent just camped, and then 2 units of Centaurs, just a vanilla variant, once again to disrupt backlines, hopefully. Obviously, the Shielded Minotaurs are relatively resistant to Jezzails, but they can still get overwhelmed by fire, and it's definitely something I want to be wary of. Now, my opponent has actually gone with a much simply counter rush build, and it's much more old school than a lot of what I've been seeing lately, and it's actually a pretty viable build. So the only real new stuff here is the AK Claw, who's actually on foot, and he's not bringing too much to the party. He's got Warplaning, he's got Brass Orb, and he's got unlimited power, so nothing too fancy. There's also the Council Guard here, who are providing, of course, the Guardian buff, and they've got Unbreakable, so they're going to be able to anchor the line. Definitely a bit of a wrench in the plan to bunker bust with Fear and Terror. Beside that, it's simply a bunch of Clan Rats, Clan Rat Spears, some Plague Monks, and then a few Rat Ogres to provide additional mass. There is also a Warlock Engineer anchoring things in the center. He, of course, does have a Doom Rocket, which is kind of funny. You almost never see these things. Warp Lightning and Warpstone Armor, as well as Musketeer, so that's pretty nasty. Definitely some annoying stuff. We're going to see the Doom Rocket go off here shortly, I do believe. My opponent launched it. There we go. Poor Gorge are about to get nuked. We're going to see the shot arcing through the air, and by the rocket's green glare, I guess, saw proof through the night that like 5 Gorge get mushed. So it wasn't too much of an impact there. Honestly, the Doom Rocket, I feel like it just never delivers. But either way, I didn't really feel deterred. I stopped my Minotaurs for a little bit to let the Ungors or the Gores overtake them, and now we're just going in. We are going ham. Now, my opponent obviously has Spears in the line here. He does have these Unbreakable Council Guard, but I figured, you know what, we're going to bunker bust. We're going to overwhelm them. It doesn't matter. We're going to have Morgur applying poison, which is going to be great. In we go, all in, and just diving in. And the thing is, my opponent can potentially pincer me, but that's what these these Ungor Spearmen are here for. They're going to throw down their lives just to buy us a little bit of time. In the meantime, the chariots are distracting some of those ogres as well as the helpets, and we're going to shift flank over there. You can see Ikit trying to burn some of the Minotaurs, and now in the pits here we are just overwhelming my opponent's troops. You can see Summon of Chaos Spawn coming down on the back line. In come the Centaurs, going after the Rat Ogres because they are one of the #1 targets. And in comes Doom and Darkness, and it's dropping leadership. And the thing is, these clan rats will rout, and clan rats are not expendable. So clan rats are actually going to cause a potential chain rout here. You can see the rat ogres completely buckling, these clan rats buckling. Suddenly it's just the plague monks. The plague monks, though, because everything around them is routing, are now buckling. And that literally just leaves the council guard and the warlock engineer in here for a little bit. But even he's terrified now. Suddenly things are an absolute disaster, and you can see the balance of power immediately swings. And this is just like the first 30 seconds of engagement, and already my opponent's army is essentially gone. These plague monks over here way out of position, pursuing these Ungor spears, which I literally don't care about. I was just trying to flank around and completely forgot about them. Elsewhere, now we did lose this flank completely, but it was basically not a flank. There was just 2 Ungor spears, and now having eradicated this whole force, essentially we're just doing some mop-ups, clean up in aisle 9 here against the council guard. Now we're able to just throw down and start overwhelming my opponent's pocket. In this pocket, it's just a few monsters, some plague monks, whatever. It gets in there. But the simple fact of the matter is this is not going to be able to hold out. My opponent's not going to be able to get us around. He's not going to be able to buckle my leadership. The Hell Pit doesn't do enough damage. Neither do the Rat Ogres. Minotaurs are swarming all over. Centaurs are doing mop-up in the back alongside the Chariots, which is definitely some brutal stuff. You can't see we're just running all over my opponent's troops. It gets actually been pounded down pretty badly now. The Centaurs there dive in, and of course the fear kicks in, and they are immediately routing. These Council Guard down to 10 models, slugging in and out, getting beaten down by the Chaos Spawn that just summoned. I was actually hoping to wipe out the rest of the Council Guard with the Spawn summon, so I wouldn't have to waste time with them. But unfortunately, that didn't quite work out, though. It's not going to matter. I don't even know where the last 2 Council Guard are. They're in here somewhere. They do fight to the bitter end. They are, of course, unbreakable. You can see a few of them are right in here. The last one there getting cut down, or I think the last one surrounded and fighting to the bitter end. So they were trying to protect their Lord Ikit Claw, but it's not going to be enough. You can see the Hell Pit now getting surrounded, and it's game over. That was an incredibly quick blitz match, but now it's basically done. We're surrounding the Hell Pit, which of course is going to buckle its leadership. It's all alone. It's isolated. It doesn't have the best leadership to begin with. I'm not entirely sure what the Hell Pit's. Maybe it does have good leadership. Maybe I'm just talking out my rear. Actually, it's 90, so I lied. Actually, it's really good leadership. We're going to hit it here with the Doom and Darkness. Its leadership is completely in the gutter from everything that's gone wrong, and it's not going to last much longer. It's actually going to buckle the damage it's been taking. Elsewhere, it's just mop up these shamans running amok, doing whatever the hell they feel like. The Rat Ogre is trying to help, but it's just too little too late. Another problem is that my opponent still has a lot of troops on the periphery. Like all these guys who routed early on, and I didn't chase them down, but they're just way out of position now. They didn't swing back into the fray. That could have perhaps rallied things a little bit, though I think against the Chariots and the Minotaurs and another Doom and Darkness, I just don't see it happening. But it's just clean up here. You can see I'm trying to run down this Warlock Engineer because, of course, he's got that damage over time effect. I didn't want that affecting me. And that's going to be game. At this point, I'm simply sitting and running down my opponent's last few troops, chasing off the Hell Pit Abomination as well as the Rat Ogres, getting them off the field. And that's all she wrote for the poor rats. So that was an incredibly quick and sort of decisive match, but I wanted to show it basically because I think this is the strategy that can work for Beastmen. If you go super wide, like old school builds with Beastmen, where you bring a bunch of Centaurs and you bring a bunch of Gors or Ungors, I think that's incredibly risky because you can't counter Doom Flayers effectively. Before, you could bring like a single unit of Minotaurs or something, or like 2 Centaurs with throwing axes or something, and you knew that you could relatively reliably deal with a Doom Wheel or 2. You knew that was good enough. But against Doom Flayers, throwing axes are not accurate enough. A single unit of Minotaurs isn't going to cut it. And the thing is, they can just ignore your 1 unit of Minotaurs or whatever, your small blob of AP stuff, and run amok. And this is if it's just like a rush build with Skaven. And then if they've got shooting on top of that, you're not going to be able to protect your flanks while at the same time dispatching your opponent's backline. It's just a very, very rough situation, I think. And for that reason, I do think that a sort of narrow build is actually kind of good here. It might seem like a bit illogical, but I think massive shooting are still not going to be really that meta for the Skaven against Beastmen. The simple fact is that the threat of a wide Beastmen build is there, so the Skaven have to prepare for that. They have to have enough tools to defend, which means they're not going to be able to invest that much in shooting. And that really frees up this Minotaur rush. And as you can see here, it worked out really well. Obviously, Doom and Darkness is an absolute key component because it just snowballs. You hit your opponent, the Clan Rats buckle because they don't have any defense against psychology, but that snowballs, and then you've got the Plague Monks start routing and the Rat Ogres and the Warlock, the heroes that are supporting them, all start chain routing because they're as unit after unit collapses leadership wise, and it was a complete defeat there for my opponent's blob of infantry. The only unit that stuck around was the Council Guard. And obviously they couldn't get much done. And if your opponent sort of does a more chaff-heavy shooting build, then you can do the same thing. You can hit them with a Doom and Darkness, you buckle a single corridor, and that's usually enough to then compromise the backline and start swarming enemies. And Beastmen are one of the few factions that's actually quick enough to get in on the backline and really exploit breaks because their infantry is so quick. They're one of the only factions with like a really quick vanilla infantry, even compared to other quick races like Skaven and Wood Elves. Beastmen are really definitely, I think, probably definitely top tier. But regardless, well played to my opponent, Teddy Pie. It was definitely a very quick and sort of brutal match. I do think there was a few misplays with his Plague Monks where he just positioned them too far out, and then they didn't come back into the fight fast enough. I also think he needed to meet my blob head on, and the fact that his Hell Pit and Rat Ogres were way out on the flank was definitely inconvenient and ended up costing him a good bit. And personally, I think that with the new patch, I definitely think that you want to bring some Doom Flayers. And you probably want to bring some shooting. And that shooting doesn't necessarily have to be the new shooting, just something to bring down Minotaurs. Hell Pit Abominations, in my opinion, don't really counter Minotaurs that well. Their bonus just isn't that big versus large. Minotaurs with shields are just too tanky, I think. So it's just not going to work. But regardless, well played. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you found it, I know it was a quick one, but I hope you found it entertaining, fun, gave you some ideas perhaps. As usual, don't hesitate to leave your comments, critiques, and all that down below, and I'll do my best to respond. And I thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye for now.